This is a Gizmos freeware tutorial on understanding and using the revisions or publishing module. Alright, whenever you are looking at one of your articles, you've probably noticed that there is an entry at the top of your article called Revisions. This is how you get to the Revisions module by clicking on it. Now, what is the Revisions module exactly? This module keeps a record of all the different revisions or additions of an article. Every time you save an article, you have the option to create an entry in the revisions list. Anyway, you can think of these entries as backups of the article, which retains the various states of that article before further changes were made. Using it, you can go back in time and view or compare previous versions. Now, some of the functions of the revisions module are publishing new revisions, reverting to older revisions, comparing two different revisions, or even deleting revisions. Now, before we actually examine some of these different functions, we want to look at what you can do to control how different items get added to the revisions list. To do that, we're going to go up to Edit. So we're back into the online editor, and as we saw in previous tutorials, once you've made some changes to one of your articles, you can save those changes by scrolling to the bottom and clicking on the Save button. But before you actually do that, you have several different choices or options that control how the modified article is added to the revisions list. And those are found right here under Revision Information. There's actually two radio buttons that you have here. One, Create New Revision, and two, New Revisions and Moderation. By using these either singly or in a combination, you can control exactly how your article is added to that list. And the first option is where you have both of them clicked. What this actually does is it creates a new entry in the revisions list, but the version that is currently live on the site is retained as the current version. Let me demonstrate this. I'm going to add a log message so we can see this taking place a little bit easier. So we're going to call this the first example revision. Both radio buttons are clicked, and we'll go down and click Save. Now this creates a new revision, but it puts that revision in moderation. Now we'll go to the revisions module, and we can see what has happened here. Here's our first example revision. But we can see that while there's been an entry put in the revisions module, it is not the current revision. The current revision is highlighted in yellow here. In order to get this revision to be the current revision, you click on the title here and you click Publish. And then you confirm it. And now if we go back to the revisions module, we'll see that this revision has been published and is now the current revision. Now let's go back once again to the online editor and see what the difference is between having both of these checked and only having the top one checked. We'll put in a new log message. Second example revision, and we'll go down, leaving this one unchecked, so the new revision is not going to go into moderation. Click Save. And what actually is happening now is that revision is going live immediately. You can see that instead of like the first time where it had to be published, this time the revision immediately was published. So no going in and having to publish it. Now let me talk a little bit about the benefits of using one or the other. The first example, you can use this when you want to wait until a certain time to publish the changes that you've made. You can also use it, and this is where you would use it more often, is when you are making changes but you're interrupted or something and you can't finish those changes, but you want to save them so you don't lose the work that you've done. You can put those changes in moderation and then later come back and pick up where you were working before and finish that before you actually publish it. So let's actually go back and let's look at that one more time. We'll go into edit. We're going to call this third. This is our third example revision. Putting the new revisions in moderation. So this time when we save it, it will not go live. The previous revision will stay the published one. So the second example revision is the published one. And in the case of an article, that's the one that readers would be able to read when they came to the site. This one is the one that we were making changes to but didn't finish the changes. So now, if we were just to click edit right here, we'd actually end up editing the sample of the second example revision because it's the current one. In order to edit the third one, the one we want to basically pick up where we left off and make any changes, you want to click on the date line here, and then from this list choose edit revision. And then you can actually work on the third revision that we were working on there. So you'll see the changes that you've made previously. Then when you're done, you could put in your log message. And because you're done, you want this to actually go live, you uncheck the bottom one, new revisions in moderation. And once you click save, then that revision will immediately be the one that's published since it's updated there. And if we go and look, our fourth example revision immediately became the current revision that's live on the site, and that would be the one that users would come and view. Now that's particularly beneficial when you've made a really minor change, such as correcting a spelling error or changing a link. There's no need for you to put it into moderation and then go and publish it. It just is an extra step that you don't need. So you can just immediately have it go live on the site. And that's probably the most common revision option that you'll use. Now I want to show you one other choice that you have. The other choice that you have is having neither one of these clicked. Now remember, our current revision is the fourth example revision. This time we're going to call this one fifth. Neither one of these boxes are checked, so if we think this through, it's not going to create a new revision entry. Well, actually it does, but you'll see what happens. So don't create a new revision, and the revisions of course are not put in moderation. Having this one checked by itself, there isn't the fourth option because this doesn't do anything unless this one's checked. We click save. We'll see that our fifth revision immediately was published because it says right here, it doesn't say anything about excuse me, things being put in moderation. But once we get into the revision list, we'll notice what happened. The fifth example revision became the current revision, but notice it actually overwrote the fourth example revision. The third example revision's there. Fourth example revision was there, but because we didn't create a new revision and we saved it with both of those boxes unchecked, it just copied right over top of it. You have to use this with caution, because if you've made a lot of major changes, you can't go back to the previous revision. But this is particularly handy if you have gone in and you've made a small change, you publish the article, and you immediately notice that you still didn't get things quite right. You can just simply overwrite that revision without having to worry about going back in or having two revisions, one right after another, or going back in and deleting the previous revision. So it's just a quick way of making a minor change a second time and then saving it over top of the previous one. Now let's do look at a few of the other options that we have here in the revisions module. We've already seen how you publish something by clicking on the title here. Now the publish button won't appear here because that's already the published version.